It's another party gone wrong, this time a murder mystery. Let's talk about season 2, episode 9 of the Frasier revival. It's called Murder Most Finch. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my Frasier review for Murder Most Finch. This is season 2, episode 9 of the Frasier reboot, which means we have just one left. The season is almost over. I really, oh boy, as a longtime TV watcher, lifelong, these 10 episode seasons are just unfortunate. I want more of this. I wish we got 22 episodes, like the old days, but it is not to be. So we have one more episode. It's going to be next week's Christmas episode. But for now, we've got Murder Most Finch. This is about a murder mystery game gone awry, as any party on Frasier always does. But before we launch into the specifics of this episode and my thoughts on it, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are one of my subscribers already, thank you so much. Always appreciate you guys returning to the channel. But if not, please consider subscribing. Click that notification bell or just like this video, comment below. All that stuff, of course, helps the channel out. And speaking of the comments, thank you guys for always commenting on my Frasier videos. Last week, we had a lot of really passionate comments both ways. For the episode where Frasier returns to Seattle and we see Bulldog and Gil again, and we realize at the end of the episode that Roz is indeed going to return or move, I should say, to Boston to be with her daughter, hang out with her best friend Frasier, whatever. And there were some very passionate comments on both sides. I did not particularly care for the episode. I think it's the weakest of the season, maybe the entire revival series so far. And many of you agreed with me. Some of you didn't. Some of you enjoyed the episode, and that's awesome. That's what I like in the comments, getting those varying opinions. So let's see how this one grabbed you. Murder Most Finch. So this was written by a committee, really. This was the teleplay, which is the actual script, was by Elliot Fish and Allison Gilbert, and then the story itself was by Allison Gilbert and Catherine Konetsko. Names that I am unfamiliar with. They don't have any episodes this season. Trying to look here. Doesn't look like last season they had any either. So they may be people newer to the writer's room of Frasier. Maybe this is the first time they had their voices really heard. I don't know, but in any event, this was directed by Sheldon Epps, who directed just one episode so far of the revival, the one a few weeks ago in Cape Cod. That was a pretty fun episode. But he has 20 episodes of the original Frasier under his belt. But the most that he's done a lot of sitcoms over the years. He did a few Friends episodes, but the most episodes he did was 59 episodes of the sitcom Girlfriends, starring Tracy Ellis Ross. And Kelsey Grammer was an executive producer on that show, so no surprise there. He went from directing Frasier to directing a Kelsey Grammer produced show. But he is back in the director's chair for this one, Murder Most Finch. And I always say this with my Frasier videos, if you have not seen them before. I do cover all of the things going on in the episode, so there is going to be spoilers in this review. So if you haven't seen the episode yet, go watch it and then come back and check out this video. So the biggest thing, I guess, we'll start with is the return of Patricia Heaton. Now, she was in an earlier episode this season. I think it was episode 2, right? The Valentine's episode. Yep. Where Frasier kind of played Cyrano de Bergerac to Moose from the Firehouse, which, by the way, reminds me, we have not really seen, other than there was one other episode where we had a memorial for Eve's ex that had passed away, the firefighter. But I think other than that, and other than episode 2, the Valentine's Day episode, we have not seen the firefighters at all. Honestly, I'm okay with that. I think that's a wise move. We explored that a little bit in season 1. Actually, quite a bit in season 1, I should say. But I feel like maybe there weren't many places to go with those characters. They didn't really flesh them out. I think it makes more sense to focus on the characters that we already have, that I think the audience is a little bit struggling to connect with, like Olivia and like David. And I think this episode actually helps both of their characters quite a bit. But, bringing Roz back helps, I think, as well. So I'm fine. Maybe we do one or two episodes where there's some sort of firehouse component each season. But so far, I'm okay that we've sort of dropped, for the most part, a lot of those characters. But Patricia Heaton goes back with Kelsey Grammer. They were on a show together called Back to You. I talked about this before. And I said when I reviewed that episode that I hope we get to see more with this character. And then she was, sort of dropped, but we've got her back now. Look, the way this episode ended, she could be a potential girlfriend for a little while for Frasier. I think the sort of conceit of the Frasier character is that he's not going to settle down with someone. So I don't think this is a lifelong partner, but it could be somebody that we see for a few episodes and have a little fun with. So she is a bartender at this restaurant where the Valentine's Day episode was set. And, she was just laughing at the shenanigans with Frasier. So the intro to this episode has him sort of telling her a few different tales. He comes back to the bar, and I don't know if it was to see her or not. I think it probably was, right? Because otherwise he could just go to Mahoney's, the bar that the crew hangs out at. But he went there, and she said, hey, I laugh so hard every time I think about that Valentine's Day incident. If you've got any other stories that make me laugh like that, the drink's on the house. And so we have a little montage of him telling her different things from this current season, the Cape Cod trip, and some of the other things, that are really making her laugh, when he played his own twin at his party. So they decide to actually go on a date together. She asks him out. He is a little bit dense in realizing that she had a thing for him. But look, as far as we knew from the Valentine's Day episode, she had a boyfriend. But now they are broken up, so she takes him to a hockey game. He invites her to ballet, and she says, no way on that. And so they go to a Bruins game. And he obviously doesn't love it. He's there dressed in a suit, but he does get into calling out the ref a little bit and has some fun with that. But then the next day, we see the whole crew, including the Patricia Heaton character, at Mahoney's, hanging out. Holly is her name. I don't want to keep calling her the Patricia Heaton character. Holly is her name. And Olivia comes in and says, oh, I have this extra virgin olive oil party tomorrow. See you there. Frasier says, oh, could I bring Holly? Is that okay? And not Eve, I apologize. Olivia. Olivia is very odd about it. She's like, well, I don't, and Frasier's like, it's an extra virgin olive oil tasting party. Like, what? It's a big deal. Like, let's. But I had known before the episode started that it was going to be a murder mystery party. So in my mind, I'm like, oh, okay, she's actually got this murder mystery party surprise going on, and she has to now write a whole new character for Holly and this and that and the other thing. So it makes sense. But of course, Frasier was very confused about the whole thing. But the whole gang is there. We go to the party, and now Frasier's crew. Frasier, Alan, Eve, Freddie, Roz, they all think it is an extra virgin olive oil tasting party. Actually, Freddie and Eve were told it was a beer party or something, a beer tasting party. And then the other professors, the really uncool nerds from Harvard, were told it was a wine tasting or something like that. So everybody was told something a little bit different. And then Olivia, opens up the curtain and announces in her accent that it is indeed a murder mystery party surprise. And so, people are complaining, people are, running for the door, whatever. But David is her sort of partner in crime here, and he ends up taking everybody's cell phones and this and that. Now, in the meantime, before all this happens, Frasier is desperately trying to look cool to Holly, and it's like, look, I already invited her to the ballet, and she thinks I am going to an extra virgin olive oil tasting. I cannot be this uncool. Why don't I, try to talk up Freddie and Eve and Roz? Like, those are the cool kids over there. But unfortunately, that just makes him look more uncool. So, he doesn't even know what the Panthers are, a football team. So he decides, oh, well, maybe I'll go over to the other professors and their nerdiness will make me look cooler, whatever. Because it turns out that Holly used to date one of the Boston Bruins, and so she's got this past of cool guys, whatever. Alan even has a man crush on this guy. So anyway, we get to the murder mystery, and nobody wants to be there, whatever, whatever. Olivia's dealing out the personality cards or whatever, and then the lights go out, and the dollhouse that's involved in some way in the murder mystery gets smashed. So Olivia's heartbroken. She's like, "Look, what'd you guys do?" They blame Frasier, who claims he did not do it. And at the end of the day, he apologizes to her, and she says, "Look, just whatever, go home. Nobody wants to be here. Forget it." And he decides, no, no. Not only do I have to clear my name, but this woman put a lot of work into this murder mystery party. And to be honest, I think people were being jerks about it. I love a murder mystery, and this is not the first time we've even had a murder mystery on Frasier. There was an episode in 1999 called Taps at the Montana. The Montana is where Niles was living at the time, where they decide to play murder. It's not like a pre-designed game or whatever, but they decide to play murder and have kind of a murder mystery, and a big shocker, it goes awry. It's a Frasier party, but so this isn't even the first time that Frasier has been involved in a murder mystery party. And I think in Taps at the Montana, if I'm remembering this right, it might have been Frasier's idea to play the game. And Roz was there too. So it's not the first time Roz has played a murder mystery game either. And then you have, of the nerdy faculty members, you have Provost Sharma there, who we've seen in a few episodes so far. I think this might be the first time we've seen him this season, but in season 1, a few episodes, played by Parvesh Sheena, who I mentioned this, I think, last time he was on, but you may not recognize him by name, but he is one of those, faces that you've seen in something. He's done a lot of guest roles, from The Conners to Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, and he does a lot of voice work as well, in the Transformers animated series a few years ago, and more recently some stuff for Disney Junior. So, but you've definitely seen this guy in probably something. But he's a part of it, and we learn that he loves games and having game nights. I think we knew that about his character from before, but it surprises me that he wouldn't want to do a murder mystery, as a gamer himself. So I don't know. Their attitude on the whole thing seemed very, very rude and distasteful, but it does kind of play into what happens then, because everyone sort of has a motive for crushing the dollhouse. So they go kind of one by one down the line. Once it is realized that Frasier couldn't have done it, because there was flour on the floor, there was no flour footprints, leading to the dollhouse, even though the flour was all around Frasier. Eve came up with that one. Eve actually is the only person that was kind of into this. She was picking up clues, and Alan was sort of poo-pooing them. And, she was a bit disheartened by that. He was saying, "Oh, that's a great theory. Do you want me to get you some crayons, so you can draw it up or whatever?" But she actually is the only one that's kind of into this, even though she does say, like, oh, she wants to go home. There's a reality show that she wants to watch, and that plays into, some of the accusations for the dollhouse as well. But so essentially, the murder mystery, David was going to be the one that got murdered, gets turned into this other mystery about who killed the dollhouse. And it turns out that Alan, in one of the funnier moments of the episode, Alan loves a murder mystery. He was just kind of being cheeky about it and not wanting anyone to know his secret. But Frasier outs him. He had a note card in his breast pocket with all of these different clues, including one of the ones that Eve had said. So she's enraged about that. But that was a really funny exchange, because it's like Frasier was accusing him of actual murder by saying he likes the murder mystery parties. But it turns out in the end that it was indeed Provost Sharma that ruined the dollhouse, because a week or two ago, at a game night at his place, Olivia ruined his Pictionary game by saying that the camel he drew it looked more like a brontosaurus, leading back to something from earlier in the episode. This is a very well crafted episode, where the ice sculpture that she wanted of the Bronte sisters was actually a Brontosaurus, and one of the other nerdy professors points out is actually a different dinosaur too. And Roz keeps telling him to shut up. I love that Roz is back, by the way. I said this a few episodes ago, even before we knew that she was going to permanently move to Boston, that it just made sense. Why isn't she doing that? And yes, maybe we had to go to Seattle to find out the answer to that, that KICL is falling apart and blah, blah, blah. Maybe we had to do that, but it all makes sense anyway that her daughter is going to college there. Her best friend Frasier is there. Why wouldn't she want to be in Boston? So did we need the whole Seattle episode? I don't know. Certainly some of you in the comments thought we did not. But I'm glad that she is now part of the permanent cast. I really was thinking after the third time that we saw her this season that that was going to be the case. So luckily they decided to go with that because God, Perry Gilpin as Roz is just outstanding. I love her back and forth with Frasier, and there you go. It does kind of make Frasier cool because Roz is such a badass that the fact that she's best friends with Frasier must mean he's got some kind of merit with the cool kids, right? So I think that bodes well, maybe for his relationship with Holly as well. So all right, so that's the gist. I talked about some of my thoughts during it, but let's talk a little more about some of this. So Olivia is one of the characters that I have found it a little hard to warm up to. Unfortunately, because I think the actress is good, Tokes Olagondoy. She, has been in other things that I've enjoyed. But I think the writers were having a little bit of trouble with her character. A few of the characters, really. Eve, the whole first season with Eve, I was just not really into her. And this season, especially these last few episodes, the Cape Cod episode specifically, really got the ball rolling, I think, on, Eve's character a little bit more than just, okay, she's a bartender, she's a single mom, she's a widow. Well, I don't know if they were ever married, but whatever, her man passed away as a firefighter, and that was basically all we knew about Eve. And there's certainly a will there won't they with her and Freddie, which they explored a bit in Cape Cod, which I thought was a lot of fun. But this season they're definitely fleshing out her character a little more. David's character, I can still take or leave, to be honest. But the fact is, and last episode I made no secrets about that was about the worst B story that we've had so far in the Frasier reboot, was that keeping Alan, Olivia, and David in Boston, and just having him do the bits of, I'll be your teacher's assistant, no, I'll be your teacher's assistant, and it's just horrible. So I'm glad, I am always glad to see David sort of outside of academia. The Harvard stuff is fine, but I think Frasier is more at its best when it's just sort of about the group, and not, in season one, I think they tried a little bit more to do like the classroom stuff. It just wasn't really working for me. So I'm glad. I mean, some of the episodes were okay, but I'm glad that they've sort of taken David out of that realm. And I like that he was Olivia's assistant with this. He does seem to be kind of the I don't know, he's not put upon because he likes doing it, I think, but just everybody's kind of helper and assistant and whatever. And that seems to work for the character. He's a people pleaser, I guess we should say. And so, it made sense that he would be her confidant in this, since it was a secret to everybody else and she trusted him not to tell people as they were setting it up. But, just the fact that he was in charge of the cell phones, and he was the one who was going to die at the original murder mystery. So I don't think this episode really turned me around on his character, but I think they're getting to do some more interesting things, at least, with his character. But this one, for me, really made the Olivia character shine. I think this season, they've been working a little bit on that with the Ladies' Night episode with Roz and Eve and Olivia. I think that made both of those characters stand out a little more with, adding some Roz into the mix. But we knew that she liked games and puzzles and escape rooms and mind teasers and all of that. So it makes sense that she would want to put this on. So I really like the arc kind of that her character took. She was so excited about it. And then seeing everyone's disappointment that it was a murder mystery party did not diminish her like to her, it didn't diminish it. She was like, I'm going to keep going forward with this. I don't care that nobody likes it. I'm having a good time. And in time, they will have a good time too. That's a very Frasier attitude. We've seen a lot of Frasier parties in the original run that were like that. The superhero party, for example, where you come dressed as your hero, and people sort of interpreted that differently. And Frasier didn't really enjoy it, but whatever. Everybody else, he was determined to keep on with the theme, and then that's been something that he's done. So I like that they sort of gave Olivia that character trait, because it does make her more of a companion, I think, to Frasier mentally, in terms of how a party is run. So I think that was good. And Alan, of course, hilarious as always. The standout with the humor. This was a very funny episode. Everybody almost got at least one or two good lines there. Alan got the bulk of them, but I think Freddie and Eve both had funny moments. Kelsey Grammer as Frasier certainly had some funny moments, especially when conducting the dollhouse trial or whatever at the end of the episode. So look, this one for me is back to a winner. We had a couple of really great episodes, starting really with the BB episode. Then we had Cape Cod, and then we had the Frasier party. All of those were in like the A minus range for me. And then last week's episode, terrible, worst maybe of the entire reboot in Seattle. And now, we are right back up there. I thought this was a really, really charming episode. A lot of laughs. I'm glad to see Patricia Heaton back. I hope that we see more of her. And like I said, at the end of this episode, it looked like they were, getting off on a good foot. So hopefully we get to at least a little bit of an arc with the Holly character. I don't know if she'll be appearing next week in the Christmas episode, but that looks to be a bit of a tearjerker because it involves Alan trying to reunite with his estranged granddaughter and daughter. He's mentioned that a couple of times this season so far, so kind of bringing it back to that. Those were some of the more emotional moments of the season, so I'm interested about that. But we've still got no Lilith episode. BB Newworth absent, so unless she makes an appearance next week, this will be, I think, the first season ever of Frasier without Lilith, at least in one episode. So that will be interesting. But look, grade-wise, I leave Murder Most Finch with an A minus, another winner for sure. But what did you guys think? Let me know in the comments. I know there were some differing opinions on last week's episode with the return to Seattle, but this week I have to imagine that any Frasier fan is going to really enjoy this one. It's got a lot of the Frasier hallmarks for sure. All right, thank you so much for watching Dan Reviews It, and I will see you next time.